So yesterday, and I talked about this in a video that I recorded before Raw but uploaded this morning. Yesterday, reports came out of Bray Wyatt and him basically being gone from WWE for quite some time. And everybody, of course, as I said in the video, were already speculating on certain rumors floating about. Rumors of he walked out of the company, over creative. Or he walked out of the company because he heard that Vince McMahon was backstage at Raw last week. Just rumor among rumor of him potentially, being done with the company, basically. But reports then came out that it's not that all those walkout reports were false. And that instead it's a physical issue. AKA an illness of some kind. They're not really sure. Like I said, they're not really sure. But it seems more than likely, and basically moment by moment, that it is a physical issue / illness that he is dealing with. Now, I speculated that the physical issue could be, as some people were sharing online, something with his hand, his fingers and all that, and potentially his knee, since he was seen wearing a knee brace the last time people saw him. Now, with that said, as far as an illness goes, I've speculated that it could be two things. I believe and still do that it could be either the flu. He came down with the flu, and thus, he has to stay home for a bit, and get better from the flu, as well as maybe rest up any injuries he has. Or it could be COVID-19, because as I mentioned in the video, Piper Niven, formerly Dewdrop in WWE, but now going back to her Piper Niven name, she basically stated in an interview that she that she basically was battling, COVID-19 for months, which is why we never saw her, for quite some time. And that it was an issue so bad that basically, I don't know. Well, basically the battle she was dealing with COVID-19 was so bad that I don't know if from what I'm understanding, she probably wasn't sure of exactly when or where or even if she'd be able to get back. So, thank the Lord she was able to get over it, like a lot of us do, a majority of us, hope, nowadays, thanks to the shots we get and everything. But even those kind of get questionable. But still, getting back on point, Piper Niven basically had a severe case of COVID to where it basically kept her, off television and away from WWE for a lot longer than she expected. Let's not also forget the fact that Keith Lee, dealt with COVID at one time when he was still in WWE, along with some other health issues, but COVID really just kicked his ass for a bit, to the point that Mia Yim, the reason we wouldn't see her for a while, is due to the fact that basically she had to support her husband and be there for him, just in case, something happened that was beyond her control, or even his. And as I said in the video, it seems, and again I say it with all due respect, no offense, just like I said in the original video yesterday, it seems that according to what medical science, if you will, kind of points out, it seems that COVID basically hits the more heavyset people a lot worse than, an average-sized person. Or basically it hits the, heavy-set people and the elderly people a lot worse, than, the average-sized person, that's causing a lot more complications than necessary. So basically getting back to Bray Wyatt, this is one thing that I see as a potential possibility, a more legit, realistic possibility for Bray. That he probably got hit with COVID-19, and that he's just taking it easy right now, getting over it, as well as rehabbing any injuries that he may have, so that he could try to get back in time for WrestleMania, which, according to Dave Meltzer of Wrestling Observer, whether you believe the guy or you don't, the match with Lashley is still on, despite Lashley not being there last night, and Lashley then tweeting that he had worked too hard to be denied a moment at WrestleMania. So something is going to happen. Something is going to happen. Either the match will take place, or Lashley is going to get a replacement, and they'll try to weave maybe some, I guess you could say, last-minute, story, if you will, of why Bray has to be replaced. And they might replace him with Uncle Howdy. Who knows? They might replace him with Uncle Howdy, who's potentially, I think, Bo Dallas under the mask. And they might replace, Bray with him, just in case Bray's not ready to go, so they at least have some kind of, resemblance and connection to the story. But the question, obviously, a lot of people, are wondering, because Alyx brought this up, because Alyx read what Fightful was saying, and even he felt it was a little, it was worded a little off, if you will. It's like it was worded in a way that felt like, I don't know, this doesn't seem right. Basically, he had this gut feeling, this gut feeling that that something seemed off about the report. Something seemed off about the report. And, the reason he felt that way, the reason he felt like there was something off about the report is because basically WWE had been describing the issue with Bray as a physical issue, an illness. And the reason he felt like there was something off about that is because you have this other, report, this rumor going around of Bray walking out over creative, maybe potentially because he heard Vince was backstage last week, and so on. And even pointing out that ever since Vince bullied his way back into the company, basically back into power at the beginning of the year, that things felt a little off, not just for Bray, but for some other people. And that might be true. That might be true to an extent, maybe. But the one thing he was wondering was, is WWE just saying it's a physical issue, an illness, just to cover up the fact that Bray did walk out? Like, are they just covering up the fact that Bray did walk out and are hoping to get him back in time for Mania, and all they're doing right now is saying, oh, it's a physical issue? One could probably see what Alyx and others, kind of looking at it from that perspective are coming from. Like, yeah, it seems a little weird that Bray's not saying anything, WWE's not saying anything. It's like, something doesn't feel right. It's like something feels suspicious, because he pointed out numerous other times when wrestlers like AJ Styles, and so on would come out and say, hey, I'm not going to be around for a while because I suffered an injury, so I'm going to be out for a couple of months, a couple of weeks, stuff like that. Or they would come out and say, yeah, I suffered this because, I suffered some kind of strain, but it's not going to keep me out of my match at Mania or SummerSlam, and I'll be there. At least, that's the plan. Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. Despite, the fact that you could look at all that and kind of agree that, yeah, something does feel a little off, like something's not connecting, like the dots aren't connecting, like the certain shapes are not fitting in the hole or fitting into the pegs on the little shape board that you have for your preschoolers and all that. It feels like something's off. It feels like something is not right, if you will. And look, I don't disagree with Alyx feeling that way, and I'm sure a lot of you don't either. I'm sure JD feels the same way, although JD is going to basically be more in favor of saying it's Vince's fault and everything. He's going to point more towards Vince being the reason and da-da-da. And that's fine. JD wants to say that that's fine. Again, it's years of, Vince just basically ruining the product that mentally has warped JD's mind from believing anything could really change or anybody could make decisions that may not suit his fancy, and always reminds him of Vince. So again, I I don't blame JD for feeling that way, being more in favor of that. But again, I don't blame Alyx or anybody else believing that there's something a little off. I don't blame them. But I think what we also have to remember, is that some talents in wrestling and in combat sports and in Hollywood and in professional sports, period, some talents always like to be private about the situation. And sometimes they will ask the people that they work for, the company they work for, the studio, the team, that they play for, the studio they work for, they act for, stuff like that. They will ask them to keep quiet about it too. They will ask them to basically, not disclose, not basically reveal what's going on. They will ask them to NDA it, if you will. They will say if they're going to ask anything, or basically, they will come out and say if people get suspicious, just say, hey, this person's out for an undisclosed amount of time, and that's all I can say. It's probably one of those situations where Bray and WWE have agreed, that basically, if anything comes up with him and he suddenly is off, if anybody comes asking questions, just say it's for this reason, because maybe Bray wants some privacy. He maybe wants some privacy. I mean, let's not forget recently, part of his family, I think his uncle, Barry Windham, was in ICU. He was in the ICU recently. So something may have come up, we don't know. Something may have come up with Barry's health, we don't know. But we can't forget that happened recently. So maybe something occurs. There was a relapse. We don't know, and Bray wants it kept private. There's that. And you cannot tell me right now that there haven't been wrestlers throughout WWE's history, throughout AEW's history, throughout WCW's history, throughout the history of professional wrestling itself, that haven't had companies, agree with them not to say anything if they disappear for a while due to maybe private issues, private personal issues that they don't want people to know about. They don't want revealed in anything, and that the only answer they ask of you, or the only answer they ask of you to give, in case anybody gets suspicious, is, I can't say much. All I know is it's a personal issue, or it's an undisclosed issue, and that's all I can say. Basically NDA, basically an NDA issue, if you will. So that might be what's going on. I mean, if Dave Meltzer, despite how you feel about him, still feels, from what he understands, that the match is still going to happen, then obviously this is an undisclosed NDA issue that Bray Wyatt and WWE have agreed not to basically disclose. In other words, they're not going to come out and say either way what's going on because maybe it's a personal issue. Remember, this guy's been dealing with mental issues, issues with his mind and all that, mentality issues. He's been dealing with that. So on top of that, and maybe potentially an illness that might be COVID-19, not saying it is, we can't really make any kind of judgment. We can't just come out and say, something seems a little off because, WWE's saying this, but, we're hearing this and all that. We can't make those assumptions because basically it doesn't matter, again, what you're a part of, what form of entertainment or sport you're a part of. If you, as the person, that's involved in the situation, is asking the people you work for or you play for to not only have time off, but not let anybody know what's going on because you want to have privacy about whatever you're dealing with, then basically any answer you or anybody else might get wondering, okay, the whereabouts of the person, like, okay, where did they go? Where's this person? You're not going to get a straight answer. You're not. Not until that person's ready. So, honestly, I understand, I get the frustration and the concern from people like Alyx and JD and Solomonster and everybody else. I get it. I get it, but we have to remember that sometimes certain talents, certain athletes, certain actors and actresses, basically whoever they work for may have a clause in the agreement or the contracts that say, hey, if we have to leave for any personal reasons, physical reasons, whatever, health reasons, that do not disclose it, do not let anybody know why we left. Just say, hey, this is the reason, and that's all we're going to say for right now. So, to me, I think that's what's going on with Bray. Look, again, I admit, everybody has a right to be suspicious about the wording and everything else that's come out. But I believe, honestly, it's a situation where Bray Wyatt and WWE have agreed that if anything came up with his mental issues or health issues, that he could take time off, and everything, and that basically, the agreement is that nothing will be, mentioned about it until the time is right, or until both sides or one of them feel that the time is right. So, to me, I think that's what's going on here. Like I said, I understand the concern, rightfully so, because of everything you're hearing, but I firmly believe, in my opinion, that this is more along the lines of it is some kind of physical, it is a health issue, it might be a mental issue, as well, and I believe, honestly, that the reason we're not hearing anything is because Bray Wyatt and WWE agreed not to disclose any information because, of personal, private reasons that Bray, wants to keep within the family or within himself, between him and WWE anyway. So that's just my opinion. I don't think WWE is really covering anything up because if they were, because here's the thing, if it was a cover-up and all that and everything, if there was truth to walking out, we would have known by now. We would have known exactly the same way we found out about Sasha and Naomi walking out. That's how we would have found out. No doubt about it. But in my opinion, it sounds more like it's an NDA situation to where it's an agreement between both sides that if he has to leave to take care of his mental health and his physical health, that they don't say anything besides it's an illness or it's a physical issue, and that's it. So I think that's what's going on. And again, it's not the first time any wrestler, athlete, entertainer of any kind has done this. It's not the first time, nor will it be the last. Again, I understand the concern, but I don't think we have anything to really concern about. Well, again, we do have, okay, let me rewind that. All right. What I'm saying is I don't think we have anything to truly worry about and be concerned about right now until, possibly more information comes out, but it definitely sounds more like, it's just a mental, in my opinion, a mental health and physical health issue. The physical health maybe being COVID, and the mental health maybe being something personal, being brought up again within the family, maybe PTSD, I don't know. But I think basically people are reading too much into it, and I think they need to remember that there are people out there in this industry that always, ask as part of their agreement in signing with a company, signing with a team, whatever, that if they have to leave, that to keep it between them and the offices and not let anybody know about their whereabouts. And the only answer, if they do get curious, is, hey, this is what's happening. It's a physical issue, or it's an illness, and that's all I can say, nothing more. Which is why you're hearing the word undisclosed being used a lot, because that's a way of saying I can't say any more than that because it's a private issue that Bray wants to keep private between both himself, WWE, and maybe even his family. So that's just my opinion. But what do you guys think? Let me know down below in the comments as well as in the live chat during the premiere. Like the video. Check out the Teespring store by clicking the upper left hand corner of the end screen here. Also, you will get an audio version of this at BW Ross's Discussions on your favorite audio podcast platforms, except for Pandora. You will also, ladies and gentlemen, You can also, I should say, support me at Venmo at Brian-Walmer-2 and at Cash App at BWRosses98. Also support me at Patreon.com at BWRosses for the $1 with a $1, $3 tier. Also support me at VENMO at BWRosses for content you can't get anywhere else, especially certain recent content I put up there. And also, ladies and gentlemen, support me at deviantart.com, so that's BVW1979. But guys, let me know what your thoughts are. Let me know how you feel about this. What do you think is really going on? And until next time, I will talk to y'all later.